Hey guys, it's Emily and welcome to my first official YouTube video. Today, we are going to be talking through a method, a strategy, a concept that will help you quickly identify tactics in your chess positions. Now, for those of you that don't know me, which why would you? Because I'm completely irrelevant, but my name's Emily. I recently started playing chess and I'm here to share the concepts that I have learned and have helped me with you. Now, you're probably thinking, Emily, why would I follow you when you are new to chess? You're not even good at it. The answer is because the concepts that I'm going to be sharing with you are not my own. No, they come from people who are much smarter and much better at chess than I am. And I figured, what better way to keep myself accountable to learning and getting better at chess than to make videos of concepts that I myself must learn. So, with that, the concept I'm about to share with you is something that I have borrowed from the chess steps method, which is something my coach has used to teach me, and I have found it to be incredibly helpful. All right, so the concept I want to talk about today is the concept of a target in chess. Now, I know you have heard the word target before. However, I don't think you have heard of it in the way that I am about to explain it to you. When people talk about targets in chess, they are often referring to a piece of material or a square that they are trying to attack. And it's pretty general, like it could really be anything. But in this case, it is not anything. In fact, it can be one of three things and three things only. And if you learn what these three things are, you are going to learn to automatically look for them in your positions. And if they are available to you, find those tactics that are going to give you a winning position. So, what are the three targets that you need to remember? One, this one's kind of obvious, but maybe it's not. A vulnerable king. 2, poorly defended pieces. And 3, mating squares. Squares where you can checkmate the king. So, our three targets, to recap: vulnerable king, poorly defended pieces, and mating square. Now, let's go through some positions where you can see this put into practice and see how understanding and identifying these targets is going to help you find the tactics in the position. Also, why is everyone streaming? I've gotten like 14 Twitch notifications in the past 30 minutes. It's 2 o'clock on a Friday. Do people not work? Genuine question. Anyway, oh wait, the answer is there. Let's start over. We have a position in front of us, and we are going to put this targets concept into practice. I know my intermediate players watching this, advanced players, they're gonna look at this and they're gonna say, wow, this is a joke. This is so easy. Okay, hear me out. I wanna start by just dipping the toes in the water, make sure this concept is crystal clear, everyone understands. There will be some more complex puzzles later on in the video, so don't jump off yet. Let's start with the basics just to make sure we're understanding. Now, going back to our targets concept, what were the three targets? Whoa. A vulnerable king, undefended pieces, and a mating square. As we're looking at this position as white, do we notice any of these targets to be present? Now, we see that this king is pretty safe at the moment. Like, sure, we can check it by putting the knight here on f6, but this pawn is gonna take, or the queen's gonna take, and guess what? It doesn't work. There's nothing there. We're just losing a knight. No checks, no mating threats at the moment, but what is the other target that might be present in this position? If you said undefended pieces, you are correct. We have 4 undefended pieces. As white, we're noticing that these targets exist. And whenever there are targets in the position, it should cue your brain to say, there might be a tactic here. And spoiler alert, there is a tactic here. White can win material in this position. I'm going to give you a second to think about how that might happen. The correct answer is Queen A4. We are attacking this bishop and this rook. The rook can't save the bishop, okay? Anywhere, oops. It can't go to either of these squares that would save this bishop, so guess what? We are going to win the bishop. They're going to try and save this rook. presumably, because this is a more valuable piece. Us taking this is also going to put their king in check. The better move is saving the rook, and we are going to win this bishop. We're just going to make a random move, and we win the bishop. Moving along. All right, black to move. What is the first thing we do? We look for targets. King's pretty safe. I don't see any checks where we don't just hang a queen. So what else is there? I see some undefended pieces. Oops. Oh, that is defended. My bad. Okay, we see these two rooks are undefended. What can black do to win material? Correct. Queen e2. Now, let me tell you a little trick when you are trying to figure out where the attacking square is. If we've identified our two targets, all you have to do is draw lines that connect them, okay? What about here? Oh, wait, we do have a piece that can go there. And the queen goes to e2, and guess what? We are winning a rook because they can only save one of them. Okay, so white to move. This one's gonna be a little bit more tricky than the past two, but you know, the stronger players, they're probably gonna figure this one out pretty quickly. But this is a little more challenging than the other two. So white to move. Now, what's the first thing we wanna do in this position? We want to find our targets. Yes, good job, class. Now, what we'll notice is that, this bishop on e2 is hanging. And unlike the other two positions, you may also notice that the black king, he doesn't look too safe down there. So we might ask ourselves, do we have any checks? Well, we do, but you know, we lose a queen or we lose a rook. So, okay, no immediate checks, but is there a mating threat? Anytime that the king is exposed like this, you should be asking yourself, can I threaten checkmate? Because that is a forcing move, just like checks. You play check, legally, the opponent has to respond. If you're threatening checkmate, they have to do something to prevent it or they lose the game, right? So these are forcing moves that we're playing. Now, king's unsafe. We can't play checks, but can we threaten checkmate? Hint, hint, the answer is yes. If you're not seeing the checkmate right away, I'm going to tell you a little trick that you can use to find it. King is unsafe. Again, like that should immediately cue your brain. Is there a mating threat here? So white to move, if you could play two moves with white and mate, what would they be? In some cases, there may not be a two-move mate, but ask yourself, all right, if I could play two moves, assuming black can't play in between, we get to make two moves in a row, what are those two moves going to be? What I'm thinking is queen b2, queen b7, that's checkmate. If you didn't see that right away, the other way you can look at this is if you could pick up the queen and put it anywhere on the board where it would be checkmate, where would you put it? And again, you might have found b7. Now, if you see that b7, queen on b7 is mate, we just have to work backwards from there. So we know the queen is currently here. Here's the b7 square. How do we get the queen from here to here? The answer is here. And oh, look at that. It just so happens that this square also attacks this undefended bishop. So what can white do to win material? Queen b2. We are attacking this bishop and we are threatening checkmate. Black has to respond to the mating threat and we win a bishop. Or they could just try and save their bishop and then, you know, we win the game, which would also be fine by us. All right, we have a new position here. White to move again. What's the first thing we do? We do our target search. We notice black king doesn't look too safe down here. We've got this open file here. We've got this bishop pointing this way. Doesn't look too good. So king is vulnerable. We also see both of these rooks are hanging. Yikes. Is there a tactic here for white? Again, like the fact that these exist, undefended pieces, unsafe king, brain should go, might have a tactic. So what can white do here to win material? Again, we can ask ourselves, king is unsafe. Do we have any checks? We do. That loses us a bishop. So scratch that one off. Do we have any mating threats? Again, if we could make two moves with white and it result in checkmate, what would those two moves be? Or the other way of asking yourself this is, if I could take the queen and put it anywhere on the board where the king would be dead, Where might it go? H7, yay, good job. So we know this is the mating square threat. This is our target now. And both these rooks are hanging. Is there a tactic here? Is there a way white can attack both of these squares? I'll give you a second to think of it. If you said queen h1, you are correct. We are attacking this undefended rook and we are threatening checkmate. If black doesn't address this checkmating threat, we are going to win the game. And if they do, which they should, then we're going to win a rook, both of which are very favorable to us. All right. Ooh, black king, not looking too hot. Oh, look at that. This bishop is also undefended. No mating threats at the moment. This pawn's going to have to make it a long way up here for us to have any sort of like lethal attacks against the black king. But do we have any checks? I don't know. Seems plausible. There's some open lines looking at our king. So, king, bishop, again, if we just want to find where we can attack both of these pieces, in a game it would be like kind of mentally, but let's just draw lines from both of these. Oh, is there a piece that can go to that square? There is. Oh my gosh, look at that. So check, gotta respond. They can either move the king, they can block with the rook, and we win a free bishop. All right, new position here, white to move. We notice, once again, black king not looking too great. We only have a queen though, so I don't see any immediate mating threats. But do we have any checks? Looks possible. We also notice this rook is undefended. Now, what do these two squares have in common? How do they connect? There is this open diagonal here. Is there a piece that can go along this diagonal and attack both pieces? Well, there is. So the correct answer is queen b5. All right, we have a new position here. This one is a little different than the others. We are once again playing as white, and the first thing we want to do is yet again find the target. So the first thing I notice is that once again this king just doesn't look too safe over there. So we might want to do something to exploit that. Do we have any hanging pieces? This pawn, but like, you know, how are we going to get to that? Is it worth our time? I don't know. But there might be something else you may not have noticed, which is that this knight is inadequately defended. You'll see it has one attacker and one defender. Which means currently, if I were to take this, it ends up being an equal trade. They win my bishop, I win their knight. They're both roughly equal in value, so it's a neutral exchange. But is there something we can do where we add another attacker to this knight, making it so that we win a piece? Feel free to pause the video. The answer is queen c2. Now we have two attackers on this knight, meaning that if we take, the queen can't take back because they lose a queen. So we are going to win this piece, and the king's under attack, so they have to respond. They can't add another defender to this knight. That means we are going to win a piece. Okay, this is going to be similar to the last one. Now, what do we notice about this position? I don't see any immediate checks to the king where I don't lose material, but I do see that the king looks a little weak. You know, there's a lot of weak squares around here. So again, that's cueing my brain that, we might be able to make a mating threat here. How do we find the mating threats? If you could make two moves, what would they be? Or if we could put the queen anywhere on this board, where would we put it where it would be mate? We are getting warmer. And if you said queen f8, you are correct. So now the question is, how do we get the queen there? What else is going on in this position? This rook, it is one time attacked, one time defended. What if we were to add another attacker, while also threatening checkmate? Queen b4. Okay, we are back to a new position. Once again, white to move. King doesn't look too safe. What's going on here? Well, we can play check here, but then they're just going to take this pawn and scurry away. Can we threaten checkmate? Interesting. Maybe. Once again, If we could pick up the queen, put it anywhere, where would it be checkmate? Whew, queen f8. So how do we get the queen to f8? Before we answer that, maybe we should ask ourselves, what else is going on in this position? Bishop. This bishop's being attacked. It's defended once. So can we add another attacker to this bishop while also threatening checkmate? Here are our two targets. What do we do? Where do they connect? Oh my gosh. Is it this b4 square? It is. We are threatening checkmate on f8, and we are going to win this bishop. Okay, new position. Once again, white to move. Ooh, already see one target. This bishop, it's all alone on our side of the board. Yikes. No defenders. The other thing we notice, now this time, the king doesn't have a bunch of open lines pointing to it, but how do we checkmate the king? What's one of the things that we must do in order to checkmate the king? We take away its flight squares. Now, what do we notice about this king? Nowhere to go. No flight squares. So, what does this mean? If we can check this king effectively, it's going to be checkmate. So, we ask ourselves the question again. Just seeing the fact that the king has nowhere to go should cue you to the fact, maybe there's a mating threat. So, if you were to make two moves with white that would result in checkmate, what would they be? If I want to throw my hat in the ring, I might bring the queen somewhere to this e-file. Knight comes over. This pawn is pinned. Can't recapture, and ooh, the king is dead. Now, because we notice that this bishop is undefended, which of these squares might be the best option? The correct answer is queen e2. We are attacking this target of this undefended bishop on c2, and we are threatening checkmate with knight d6. For all of the stronger players who have felt like they were not being challenged, this one's a little more difficult. So I'm going to give you a second to try and solve this as white. What is the best move for white here? Feel free to pause the video and we will go through it together. If we're evaluating this position as white and we're trying to find the best move, where do we want to start using the concept we've been talking about? Finding the targets. Now, what do we notice? Well, this bishop's undefended down here. Yes. What do we notice about this king? It's not looking super safe. Is there a way we can attack both of these pieces together? No, there's not. Do we have any checks against this king? Well, we do. King comes up and you can avoid it, right? Now, we notice this king is unsafe. Because the king is unsafe, we need to ask ourselves, is there a mating threat here? Pick up the queen, put it anywhere on the board. Where might you put it where it would be mate? Queen h8 is checkmate. Okay, so we know it's going to take two moves for us to checkmate black. Now, in any position, in any game, before you move, you need to ask yourself, what can my opponent do here? Are they making any serious threats? And we might notice that, yes, they are. Not only can they come over to this b3 square and have checkmate on b1 next, but they can check us. It's a forcing move. Maybe we block with a bishop. Queen comes down. This is check. King scurries away to a2, and then they have checkmate on b1, right? So if we don't play a forcing move here, if we just go here, all of a sudden, we've lost the initiative. We're losing this game. Like, we're about to get checkmated. So we need to think about this before we just start going towards our plan. So we need to think of what we can do that's forcing. All right, what are our forcing moves? Well, we can go here, check the king. Okay, king comes up. What now? Well, we don't really have anything. Queen basically has to come back, comes here, and then we're in the same place we started, right? That's not going to work. Now, what's another way that we can play something forcing? A little surprising, but this actually is the correct answer. We're going to check with the knight. Queen takes, and all of a sudden this threat is no longer relevant. So now we have the time to play this. King scurries down. Oops, it's mate. Now, of course, we should validate the fact, like, what happens if black doesn't take this knight? Do they have to take this? Well, the alternative is black comes down. Only other move. Oh, we can check them with a knight on f6. And king comes down to h2, and what happens? We have, once again, checkmate. So that is the correct move. We were able to identify the target by identifying this mating square. But by asking ourselves, what can our opponent do? We had to kind of use the circumstances of the position to play something a little more forcing before we could get to that target. So just an example of how these concepts can apply to more complex positions. All right, friends, what is going on with this lighting? So guys, that is how you can use the concept of targets to easily find tactics in chess positions. I hope this video was helpful for you. If it was helpful, definitely give it a thumbs up so I know you liked it and I know to make more content like this. And if you didn't like it, then please let me know why in the comments so I can improve. And if you haven't already, then definitely hit that subscribe button. It helps me a lot, and myself and my subscribers, we are all going to be climbing the ELO ladder together. And eventually we're gonna be really good at chess, and you're gonna wish you had subscribed so that you could also be really good at chess. But I'm not trying to tell you what to do. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you liked the video, and I will see you in the next one.